this defendant zipped Jorge Torres shut in a suitcase, and she did this with the malicious intent to punish him.
Prosecutor mentioned she wanted him to die. Farthest from the truth. She loved the man. She hated the abuse. She was justified in the action she took to prevent an attack from Jorge Torres.
Opening statements kicked off on Friday in the trial against alleged suitcase killer Sarah Boone. She's accused of convincing her boyfriend to get inside of a suitcase, then zipping it shut and leaving him there to die. As we follow this highly anticipated trial, we're going to recap the key moments the jury heard from opening statements. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, after many delays and many defense attorneys, the trial against Sarah Boone is finally underway out in Florida. The 46-year-old is charged with second-degree murder for the death of Jorge Torres Jr., who was found dead inside of a suitcase inside the couple's shared apartment. This happened back on February 24th, 2020. The prosecution has been pointing to a number of pieces of evidence, but particularly key videos allegedly taken by Boone where you can hear George begging to be let out of the suitcase, with Boone appearing to basically laugh and taunt him. Boone told police that she went to bed shortly after those videos were taken, leaving George to die in the luggage. And by the way, when we talk about second-degree murder, what she's charged with, that is defined as the unlawful killing of a human being when perpetrated by an act imminently dangerous to another and evincing a depraved mind, regardless of human life. And you can make the argument that is exactly what the allegations are here, locking somebody up in a suitcase so they suffocate to death. Although, to be clear, with second-degree murder, there is no premeditation here. You didn't need to deliberate on killing this person. As we're sorting through these opening statements in what is a truly disturbing case, can I just take a minute to talk about something nice, something positive for once? Actually, it's something that I think you're going to really like. I know I do. It is the ability to get cash back when you buy gas, groceries, and food. I'm talking about our sponsor, Upside. This is awesome. This is a free app, so easy to use. Upside gets you real cash back, money that appears in your Upside app that you can then transfer straight into your bank account. Here, take a look. I used Upside to find a gas station. I claimed an offer, pay with my credit card at the pump, followed the steps on the app. Guess what? Got cash back. And you can use Upside at all different kinds of places, restaurants, convenience stores. So to find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen and use our promo code SIDEBAR and you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. After burning through 8 attorneys for various different reasons, she was not happy with her legal counsel. She even put up a wanted ad, essentially a wanted ad for attorneys to represent her. She is now being represented by James Owens, who volunteered to take on her case. This is after Judge Michael Kranick ruled she had forfeited her right to counsel. So what is her defense after all is said and done? Well, she told police originally that she and George were playing a game of hide and seek. They were influenced by a little bit of alcohol, and George voluntarily got into the suitcase during this game. Now, her attorney has argued that she acted out of self-defense because she says that George had abused her in the past, though he also argued she had no intention of leaving him there to die. It's a battered person syndrome, right? If you're in a position where you're being abused, then that can help justify the use of self-defense. It goes to the state of mind in a way. We'll get to the defense in a minute, but I want to break down the highlights of these openings. And when we talk about openings, opening statements, very, very important in any trial. They're the first opportunity for both sides to preview what their case will be, what the evidence will show. But we got to start with the prosecution. They go first. It's their burden. In the state's opening, Prosecutor William J. began by reading a transcript to the jury of the video showing George inside of the suitcase, what that back and forth was about. Because again, the allegation is that Boone essentially left him in there to die because she believed he deserved it. Let's listen.
From a video that began at 11:12 p.m., 45 seconds, on February 23rd, 2020, in Orange County, Florida, is a suitcase on the ground, face down, with the zippers facing the floor. You will hear Sarah, defendant will say, "For everything you've done to me." Sarah, "For everything you've done to me." Sarah, "You." And then the defendant laughs. Sarah, "You." And the defendant laughs. Sarah, "Stupid." Sarah, "That's my name. Don't wear it out." Sarah, "I can't breathe, baby. Seriously." "Yeah, that's what you do when you choke me." Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. The defendant laughs again. Sarah, "I can't breathe, babe." She laughs again. "That's on you." Sarah, "I can't breathe." She laughs again. Unintelligible words. And I would submit the evidence is going to show, because of the intoxication from alcohol, is the next thing she says. Sarah, 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 "I can't breathe, baby." That's what I feel like when you cheat on me. Sarah, you. "I can't breathe, Sarah. You should probably shut the up." Sarah, shh, is the last thing you will hear the defendant say to Mr. Torres as he is face down, zipped shut in a suitcase.
So right off the bat, the prosecution lays out what may prove to be the most significant piece of evidence in this trial, the 11-minute video of George zipped up inside of that suitcase. And you can hear from this transcript that Sarah Boone is essentially cursing at George and even shushing him as he tells her repeatedly he can't breathe. And the following morning, Boone says she came downstairs and upon discovering that George was dead, called 911. The prosecution recited what she told dispatchers in that call from February 25th, 2020.
What you will not hear are tears. You will not hear sorrow. You will hear a certain level of concern. My boyfriend and I were playing last night. Put him in a suitcase, and we were playing hide and seek kind of thing. I fell asleep. Found him dead in the suitcase this morning. I don't know what happened. He had blood coming out of his mouth. Don't know if it was an aneurysm. Pulled him out of the suitcase, tried to give him CPR. He was in the suitcase and I fell asleep. He's not awake, he's purple, he's not breathing. There's some instructions about how to do CPR given to her, asking about whether an AED is available to shock his heart. It's too late. He's cold, he's stiff, he's purple. We were playing hide and seek. We were playing hide and seek. This is horrible. This is horrific what happened. Like, what happened? We were playing hide and seek last night and I fell asleep.
And as the prosecutor continued to paint out Sarah Boone as a cold-blooded killer, he also honed in on what Boone appeared to tell law enforcement about any alleged violence from that night. Let's listen.
When she went upstairs, my plan was not to, quote, "He'll be up here any minute." My plan wasn't to leave him in the suitcase. Why is all this going on? It's the drinking. That's what it is. It's the drinking. I thought he was okay. Guys, that's how we were with each other. Nobody understands our relationship. This whole suitcase thing never happened before, though she described it happening before. I'll never drink alcohol again. She insists that she has no injuries on her, and you don't have to take her word for it because they took photographs of her and there were no injuries on her. She insists over and over that there was no violence that day.
So if the prosecution can prove that there was no threat of imminent violence, no threat of imminent danger during this incident, then that can certainly sink Sarah Boone's self-defense argument, because you can only use deadly force to prevent an immediate threat. It also has to be proportional too. Your use of force has to be proportional to the threat. You know, when you think about it, defendants have a difficult time enough trying to argue they were justified in shooting somebody or stabbing somebody in self-defense when they perceived a threat to their life. But locking somebody in a suitcase, that may be a tough one. And we'll get to the defense in a second. But towards the end of the prosecution's opening statement, they also raised another important question. Was Sarah Boone possibly considering killing George prior to the Suitcase incident?
But it's indicated that there's a communication between one of the decedent's brothers and the owner of the phone that was taken that belongs to Miss Boone. The text from the brother is, "Yo, my daughter told me what you did, Sarah. I don't want you around any of my daughters or nieces and nephews." And that's Christmas 2019, just under 2 months before this event. She replies, or the person using her device at this time, "Ugh, your quote-unquote dad hit me in the face." The next text is, "Hide and seek, I shall." January 13th, there's another heated discussion. She describes it on January 13th in a text to Mo, the brother again. "It's a Torres thing. Boo." Sends a picture. "Keep the fugly creep out too. It's still fugly. Lose." The brother responds, "Please do something with yourself, Sarah. God bless you." The defendant's response, "And bless you and all of you too. I'll get, in all capitals, rid of him. Then it'll be, in all capitals, better. Ugh, Torres," referring to Mr. Torres, getting rid of.
Okay, so that was some of the prosecution's opening statement. Now it's time for the defense's opening statement, their turn. And Boone's defense, of course, painted a very different picture of what had occurred that night, arguing that the victim in this case, George Torres Jr., was abusing Sarah Boone throughout the course of their relationship, and that she had to use reasonable force that night to prevent him from attacking her.
And you're going to learn, with all that, was domestic violence. And that George Torres physically abused Sarah Boone. And she suffered from the effects, the psychological effects that one suffers from repeat violence from an intimate partner. They were together over 3 years. And there were several prior incidences of violence. We've got the photographs. There were incidences where police were called who took photographs. So you're going to be able to see the evidence. And we believe the court will instruct you at the end when you're considering self-defense, which we call justifiable use of non-deadly force or justifiable use of deadly force, that you can consider the prior acts, the history of violence, the prior difficulties that the parties had. And considering her set of circumstances that she was faced with in making the decision to use reasonable force under the circumstances. And as everybody knows, couples can have great times where things click, everybody gets along, and then we can have episodes of disagreement. And how are those resolved? Really, is what this is about. How are disagreements resolved? But George was very jealous of Sarah. And you're going to hear the testimony about that. And that he cannot, in certain situations, he can be very charming. But when his level of intoxication gets to a certain level, is when he gets sad, moody, and a lot of times eventually it involved forcible sex with Sarah Boone or actual physical violence against her.
Owens even referred to this Suitcase incident as a unique form of restraint, and that it gave Boone the opportunity to have a captive audience.
Well, she comes down the steps, she sees him getting in and settling in the suitcase. So she walks over there, and they see each other, they smile and laugh, and she zips him up. And she zips him up, and they laugh for a while. And they carry on. She sits on the couch. And at some point, he says, I can't breathe. Now, his face is facing the zipper, and she's got 2 or 3 inches that she's opened it. And she doesn't know. They're intoxicated. She doesn't know whether he's just saying that to try to get her to get him out or what. But he's a captive audience. Physically, they're the same size, but he's much stronger than her. If they got in a fist fight, he would win 100 times out of 100. But she's got him now. He claims he can't get up. He has to sit and listen. It's a unique form of physical restraint. And so she lets him have it. Says things she shouldn't say. The prosecutor mentioned she wanted him to die. Farthest from the truth. She loved the man. She hated the abuse. She couldn't leave him. She tried. She tried taking him out 6 or 7 times. He kept coming back. She changed the locks. He kept coming back. She didn't have the family. She didn't have the support. She was weak, vulnerable.
And Owens mentioned to this jury that they will get to hear from Sarah Boone herself. So by all accounts, and she could change her mind, but she seems at this point ready to testify. Again, that's a big, big thing to do. Always a risk for a defendant to do that. And again, she's expected to claim self-defense. So that will be certainly interesting to watch. And after the openings, the jury heard Boone's 911 phone call. They even got to see the body cam footage of law enforcement's response to that call. The jury also got to see the suitcase from the night in question. So it should be a really interesting one to follow. We're at the start of this. There's a lot of different ways this can go. And I just will say it's kind of remarkable that we're finally here at trial, given all of the twists and turns and all of the attorneys. But we're going to continue to monitor what happens in the Sarah Boone trial, and we will update you on anything big that should happen, including, of course, Sarah Boone testifying. That's all we have for you here on this episode of Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.